Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Promise that I'll try and be a bit more consistent. Still not really at the point that I want to be at with the consistency, but I can feel it. I'm gonna build upon it and keep rolling some videos out for you guys. So this one is a bit more off the cuff. Not sure how long it's gonna be, or how long I'm gonna talk about it for. But it's one of the things that I want to share with the community in terms of, or anyone that's aspiring to try and get into this field, and that's around your strategy. And for me, the strategy was such a big thing right at the beginning, where I guess like anybody, when you first start trading, you're trying to find that the just the amazing strategy that's gonna make you um millions of dollars or millions of pounds or millions of euros, whatever the currency may be, and you're gonna be the next millionaire. You're gonna be rich. You're gonna have like a 90% win rate, and you go through this process at the beginning that a lot of people have always said that you're trying to find that. You're never gonna find that. It's not possible, and you start to learn about different strategies, and I feel like that's where I got a bit too fixated. So I got to a point where in which um I was very much trying to find a strategy that fit my personality and fit my scheduling, but it wouldn't necessarily be um the best thing for me, in the sense of I'm trying to replicate what's being seen on the YouTube video. I'm not necessarily um taking it and putting it into practice and enhancing it and having my own edge with the strategy. Because I think there's this thing where when you try to take someone's strategy word for word, bar for bar, um well, I feel like in most cases, and especially in my case, it's it's it doesn't necessarily work exactly the way it should. And that's because you're copying the strategy. You don't necessarily have that tick that that person has with that strategy. I know one of the very first ones I had would be something like this. It was like more of a day trading strategy. I would mark up the chart. I would be like, okay, cool. I think it was one of the very first ones. I can't remember the guy that I learned it from on YouTube, but yeah, I would get my horizontal line. I'd wait for it to break. I'd wait for it to retest, and then I'd jump in, and then I'd ride it out, and then probably get out somewhere like here when it starts to retrace, and then wait for the next break. Draw my next support. So I'd wait for it to break. I wait for it to retest. I'll get in around here again. Put my stop loss up here, and stuff like that. And yeah, in some cases it would work, and especially in a situation like this. But when things went wrong or when things went tough, I had no idea what to do, and that's because I didn't know whether you were meant to do something different. I didn't know whether um, there was another strategy that you should use. Just stuff like that. Things start to merge into one. You start to not really understand what you're doing, and and I feel like very much you just to try to simplify your strategy as much as possible and learn as much as possible. Take what you've learned, apply what you think works with you best, and then um play with it and work on it and continue to use it and build that confidence in that strategy. Continue to work on it. Continue to um get that your own tick for your own strategy, because this that and that's why sometimes it's best not to necessarily talk to others, especially at the beginning when you're doing this, because sometimes you might take a trade at a certain point, and it's just because there's certain patterns that maybe you see, or that your brain realizes that you might not be able to explain to the next person, but it's how that strategy ticks with you at the moment. And you might take that trade and obviously it might win, but then when you try to explain it, it might be hard to explain. You'd be able to explain it, but it might not necessarily completely meet the criteria of the strategy that you might have laid out. And like I said, that's because you've gone and back tested, you've practiced, you've got that. If your eyes and your brain starts to see certain things where you might just jump into a trade, and someone else that might just read or hear the strategy outright might not necessarily understand. And that's why I feel like just replicating what you're seeing on the YouTube video doesn't always work, doesn't always help. And I guess for me, I learned my strategy from a whole bunch of different things, to be honest. And I basically learned so much with forex right at the beginning, all the candlestick patterns, um all of the indicators, whether it's moving averages, MACDs, I don't even know, RSI, stochastics, all that good stuff. And then obviously I learned about Fibonacci retracements and various things like that, basically. And at first, like everybody, I guess you're trying to do everything all at once, starts to get very confusing. And in the end, me personally, I've settled down with just a very simple price action. I've only ever really got moving averages on my charts. Every once in a while, I might pop up an RSI, maybe, but don't really do that too often. And yeah, my strategy is just very simple: break and retest. Really, I do most of my analysis on the 4 hour. So, and I would make use of various different things like sentiment analysis. So, seeing whether most of the crowd is going with a long position or short position just to build a bias. I'll have a look at some of the fundamental aspects as well, all to just help me with building my case against going in a certain direction. And then, yeah, I would mark up my charts. A lot of my stuff is just break and retest. Um, and I would try and build a confluence of an area. So I know this is after the fact, but it's just a very good example of maybe I would have marked up. I have this area up here, but it's far gone. Or maybe I could just use that as an example. So it's quite a extended example, but I probably would have looked at this area, saw all of this price action going on around this area whenever it did get to this area. And as you can see here, it's come up. I meet this area here. But for me, what I would have identified that as the area maybe instead of maybe like here, for example, one of the confluences I like to build is a Fibonacci. So this matches up with 38.2. So this builds an extra case for this area. So this area here that I pointed out before, this is 61.8, but this is kind of where my strategy depends on how aggressive I want to be as well. Because I might actually also be like, okay, when price comes back up to that area there, I want to sell. And I might sell here, and maybe I'm lucky. Yeah, I got a bit into profit. Maybe I stop out for break even. Maybe I go in for a loss. But it would be either I would play the safe game and wait for it to come back up to the more conservative area that's more likely to win out, or maybe I might be aggressive, come in here, maybe take the stop loss, but then I would wait for it to come up to this more desirable area and take the trade from there. Also to build out my confidence, I do like to also see whether it matches up with any moving averages on a higher time frame. So as you can see here, nothing really on the daily. But if I was to go to a weekly, I would imagine that it does meet up with something. It meets up with this moving average here. And yeah, it helps out with building confluence. So we've got a weekly moving average in the same area. We've got a Fibonacci, and we've got just a support resistance area where we've seen price react to. So that's three different confluences for this particular area. So that's why I would say, okay, when price eventually comes to this area, I'm very interested to take a sell, and I would wait for it to come up to here, take my sell, and then hold it out. I wouldn't necessarily hold it all the way down here because sometimes I might take profit before the weekend. my strategy as well, I do make my entries on the 15 minute. So I am a bit of a hybrid between a swing and an intraday trader. So for example, I don't have anything loaded up at the moment, but I'll try and get some actual trades so that I can show you guys. But for example, maybe I would wait for it to create this lower high here, or maybe even this one here. Take my short position maybe here with my stop loss up here. I would use 15-minute structure, and yeah, I would probably hold all the way down to about here. So that's almost an 8 to 1. And after going probably like a 3 to 1 in profit, I start to aggressively move my stop loss. So I would probably move it to here quite quickly. And then once it came and did, well, this is all when I was asleep, so I probably wouldn't have been able to move my stop loss. So I probably would have moved my stop loss to around here, or in some cases I could have maybe even moved it to here and stopped out here, right here upon this wick, which would have been a 3 to 1. But after a big move like this, I'll definitely move my stop loss to probably about here, and then I probably would have stopped out for, what is that, maybe like a 6 to 1, 6.5 to 1. But that's like a really rough explanation of my strategy, but it was something that I had to pick up because I looked at multiple strategies. I had decided what fits me the most, what fits my schedule the most, my lifestyle the most. What do I understand the most? So that was always moving averages, that was Fibonacci, that was support and resistance, and I then applied it to different pairs that I've used in the past. I would use my forex book, my FX book, sorry, to see what my success rate has been with all of those pairs as well, to see whether I was doing well with them, and just constantly built on top of the strategy and constantly built confidence within the strategy until the point where I was doing it as second nature. And then that's what was probably one of my main breakthroughs. And like I said, at some point I'll probably do like a more structured explanation of what my strategy is and how it came about and how I even got to this point, what I was doing before, etc., etc. But this the main message of this video was for me just to really explain to probably people that are more towards the beginning of their journey, and that's to try and learn everything. Don't get me wrong, but don't copy someone's strategy but word for word, move for move, just because it's special. You are able to build a special kind of confidence if you're able to take that strategy, mold it, add in some little quirks that that works for you. Whether it's a Fibonacci retracement, maybe they don't use that, or if it's a MACD, maybe a MACD, whatever works for you. Try and add that spin to it. Try and add that edge to it. Build that extra confidence. Back test it, forward test it, and then eventually it becomes your own. And from there, it's just about staying patient, stay persevering, and ultimately, you'll get there. But that's it for now. A bit more of an off the cuff video. I shall surely come back with a more structured explanation of what exactly my strategy was. I just wanted to quickly go over what my strategy is. And I'm happy to share my story. I'm happy to talk more about my withdrawal processes for FTMO or for the funded trader. I haven't actually gone into any other prop firms right now. Just because I'm trying to take it in a very systematic approach right now, and I'm not really sure which one I'll go to next, to be honest. But I'm happy to share more stuff about that, what my journey's been, anything else really. So comment in the comment section down below if there's anything particularly you want me to cover or you want me to talk about or share. And yeah, have a good day. I'll catch you guys in another one.